Hi, my name is Lydia Vazquez, and I live in Melbourne, Florida. My husband and I were in the military from 1967 to 98. I did military nursing for several years, back in 93 to 98. And while I was in the military, I was getting a lot of pain throughout my muscles, my legs, my neck especially. And it was that shawl type pain. But I just didn't know what the heck it was, and the doctors didn't either. It's just kind of complaining all the time, and like it was all psychological, you know. Anyway, so to make a long story short, when I got out of the military, well, while in the military, I used to get shots, steroid shots in my neck for pain because I was really having a hard time. And the doctor said that he thought I had myofascial pain, whatever that was, but never said that might be the dermatomyositis or myositis. So when I came out of the military in 98. I was feeling really not so good, so I just got out. And because I was already 48 years old when I entered the military, I was doing like a nursing, what is that called, status nursing type thing. And so I got out, and about 4 years later, I developed this rash on my face, and everybody thought it was rosacea. But I am dark, so I said, dark people don't get rosacea. I was kind of dumb, right? Anyway, so they kept saying, oh, well, it's probably some nervousness, or you need to get unstressed, and the doctor said that on base, he said, well, it's cleanliness, because my fingers were purplish, and I had that myositis rash, the dermatomyositis rash, but nobody knew what it was, and they kept thinking that I was having some psychological situation. To make a long story short, one day, and also the rash started hurting me a lot, and it was my eyes. I was getting photosensitivity, and I went to a dermatologist, and he said, "Did you ever have your RA tested?" And I said, well, "I don't know, what for?" He says, "Well, let me go ahead and do it." So when he did, he had to send my test away, and then when he got the results back, he said that like my myofrin was like 800 and something, was supposed to be only 80. Then my CPKs were like out there in the thousands. And by this time, I was really having a hard time walking and driving to work. I had to lift my legs out to get out of the car, and I said, what the world's going on? I was dragging myself to work and from work and into bed and out of bed. Anyway, so finally the dermatologist told me that he suspected it was DM, or dermatomyositis. But it was like, even in being a nurse, I had no idea what that was. I had never heard of it. So when the roomie saw me, the rheumatologist, and that was in Vero Beach, he said, "You're really sick." And I said, "Yeah, I know, I feel real bad." So he says, "Well, you have to have a muscle biopsy so that we can conclude that this is what it is, myositis." And then he gave me the sheet of paper with all this information. I had no idea what he's talking about. And this was like around Christmas time in 2002. And I had to go visit my daughter in Texas, Killeen, Texas. And then that one day, I said, "You know, I feel so bad. What's wrong with me?" And I went to bed that night, and during that night, I was laying on my stomach, and I couldn't get out of bed. I thought I was having a stroke. So then I couldn't put my pants up or take them down because my fingers hurt so bad. So I called my doctor, and she said, "Take some prednisone that she had given me just in case I needed it, and come back to Melbourne." And I came back, did my biopsy, and within a couple of weeks, I wasn't walking anymore. So I was stuck in a wheelchair for about 2.5 years. I went to rehab to learn how to walk again. Well, at first they put me on intensive prednisone, and then they put me on methotrexate, and then they gave me Imuron. Well, the methotrexate, I just vomited for like 6 months, and then I was gaining weight like you wouldn't believe. I gained 30 pounds within a month, and it was like, oh my God, I looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy. It was horrible. You know, the image, my self-image was really bad. Emotionally, I was like, it was rough. I never questioned why, but I did have faith, I never thought I was dying, but my husband thought I was going to go because I was that sick. I was really acutely sick. I was like 24/7 care, bedbound. It was really weird. Well, the doctors, my doctors that I had at that time, they didn't understand a lot of it, but they did. My rheumatologist had worked with some of the medicines, and he gave me, like I said, the medications, which also the Imuron, I got pancreatitis from it, ended up having to have a catheterization, which blew my veins in there, and I had to have surgery. It was just a lot of wrong stuff happened. you know. But I prayed a lot. That was my thing. I prayed a lot. I laughed a lot. And I was like, in a way, I think I was like out to lunch, you know. Maybe I was in denial that everything was going bad. Because everybody was like, they looked at me like, you know, it'll be okay. But it's like the doctors, for the first year, it was really rough for my doctors to get me on track. It almost like I would read the signs in their face, like they were giving up on me, because no medication was working. Everything was, but they never tried me on the IVIG. And of course, at that time in 2002, 3 time frame, that stuff was just coming out and people was talking about it. And my doctor says, well, I reserve that for people that are on vents, on the ventilators, or really, really downhill real bad. I mean, I was down there, but not as bad as other people. So he never put me on IVIG. I wanted to go on clinical trials, but he said, I don't want you to do that because I want you to have the right, I want you to have the real meds. I don't want you to have placebos. Like I said, with a lot of therapy, a lot of support. My church was very supportive. My husband, he was like my rock, really. He took care of me to the max. And unfortunately for him, though, within the year, he developed heart disease. That was there, but the trauma was too much. So, and I went to my first TMA conference in 2007, I think it was. Orlando was in 2006, because my grandson was born just while I was at conference. My daughter was delivering my baby grandson, which he's 8 now. Well, my husband at that time was doing quilting, and I thought, you know what? I think I'll do that. I wasn't able to sew because I was all over the place. I had some, also, I developed dystonia and along my right side, and then that affected my mobility, my gait, and all that. Taking care of things, with my hands, being steady, that's what I meant. So I couldn't sew because the machine was going all over the place. So I said, okay, I'll just design the quilt, you do the quilt. And then we joined this quilt group, a guild, and I approached them and they helped me make the first quilt. So it was a lot of love. And I said, I really wanted to do this for the myositis because it was something that I had made that showed that, yeah, you know what, I can still do something. And that helped a lot. Being able to do things and for others. That was my main thing, was to bring an awareness to other people, for the myositis in our area, in our church. So I had a raffle. We made the quilt, then we raffled it off at church, and we raffled it out throughout the U.S. And so we did really nicely the first one. And then I said, okay, well, I did this one, then we'll do another one next year. But unfortunately for me, I got sick with other things that came up, residuals from the myositis. And so I've kind of been dormant as far as that goes. But also developing this dystonia and the dysphonia. I have sometimes I have problems with my speech and the tightness around my chin. Sometimes it's hard for me to form my words. Also, my cognition, I think, has been affected by also I developed fibromyalgia, which I think was probably there. It's just in the back burner waiting for something else to happen. So, and that's why, so the dystonia also, I think, was there too in the back burner because I was having a lot of movement problems. But